give you Kundalini Yoga for the root chakra, also known as the base chakra. The base chakra, the root chakra, has to do with our stability. It has to do with feeling solid within yourself. So whenever we overthink or become very anxious, it's because we're ungrounded. And one of the best ways to ground yourself is to get in nature, right? As well as yoga, right? Warrior pose, for example, or tree pose can be very grounding. Moving the hips, right? Moving the hips, squats, these are type of things that really ground the energy. And why do we want to be grounded? Because we manifest through the root chakra. We have the visualization, right? We have the imagination, we have the intention, but we really build in the root chakra, right? So root chakra also has to do with protection. That's why we work on the warrior pose, because that is about creating a strong aura, right? A strong aura. So we penetrate, we penetrate a lot of times through that masculine energy that root chakra has, right? The root chakra is considered the provider, the protector of us, right? When people are ungrounded, they tend to have no boundaries, they tend to not have discernment, and when you don't have boundaries or discernment, you can find yourself in situations that are unstable for you, right? Unstable, imbalanced, dissatisfying, and unfulfilling. So that root chakra works a lot with our discernment, our boundaries, and also with our self-esteem and trusting ourselves. So we can think of the third eye, and we can think of our intuition and an ability to imagine and visualize and have an intention, right? We talk about the kind of fifth dimensional version of ourselves, but then there's that root chakra, and really it latches on to the root chakra, all these ideas, and that's about your ability to move forward, right? There's one thing about, having the vision, but there's one thing of being able to execute it and to move forward. So the root chakra, we see it as this red color, right? I'm kind of wearing red for the root chakra for you all. And the root chakra, it connects to the ancestors, it's connected to the root system, which has to do with your lineage, generations of you, thinking about the tree of life. And when we're ungrounded, we find relationships can be difficult, meaning they're dissatisfying, they're imbalanced, relationships lack reciprocity, that kind of thing, right? It's because we're ungrounded. And that creates these sort of, we don't know what we want, right? So that root chakra is like, I am, I belong. It's kind of like, I am, I belong, right? So there's a sense of determination in the root chakra that creates these boundaries, creates this discernment, creates a pretty strong aura, like an aura of, like a shield, right? A pretty strong aura to really help you have the experience your spirit self would like in this life, right? To provide you what you need and to protect you from, like, the aura of this earth protects us from the toxins, right, in space that are lurking around, right, trying to come in. So we're going to work on being grounded, because it is a big part of manifestation. And we talk about being grounded as it's a point in our manifestation when we are receiving, right? Their surrender is like, let it come in, right? Let it come in, let yourself receive. So we're going to work on that. Again, that root chakra, the provider, the protector, kind of has a masculine energy. So whenever I connect with my root chakra, I tend to feel sort of more of a masculine presence within me. Again, we're both masculine and feminine. The upper chakras represent our more feminine nature, and the lower chakras represent a more masculine energy, which is about building and getting things done. in completing tasks. It's also about your character development. It's also about your self-esteem. It's about you being reliable, being a part of a world that you can't necessarily trust, but you do trust yourself. So it gives you that kind of instinct I'd like to see of like the wolf, right? I see the wolf very much connected to the root chakra. So when you're working with that root chakra, you can have that sort of wolf around you. The wolf, also the leopard, the wolf, the leopard, all have to do with that sort of that baseline that you have, which has to do with your resilience and your ability to stand up for yourself. And that's important, right? So when we're young, you know, standing up for ourselves, when we go, for example, when we have sort of dysfunction in our household or belittlement or trauma or aggressions in young years, a lot of young kids, they can't develop that base chakra properly, right? So, you know, we talk about these when that's not installed properly, right? What happens is these kids can get older and, you know, they get taken advantage of, and, you know, they don't know how to set boundaries, they don't know how to, you know, express themselves, and, you know, they don't feel like they belong, and, you know, that I am presence is, they don't know how to hold it, right? They don't know how to consolidate their presence. They don't know how to hold themselves, right? They don't know how to stand up for themselves. And in the way that we kind of teach our children to stand up for themselves is more, it's like aggression with aggression, right? Which we know, you know, that, right, doesn't really sort of mediate the situation, right? But when the root chakra is about protection, or it's about providing you, this sort of, you know, the way it reacts, right? It's about sex, money, food, water, right? Sex, money, food, water. And it does connect to your more, it can be kind of correlated to that reptilian part of the brain, which is that fight or flight part of us. You know, like a lot of program we have is hoard, you know, when there's crises, hoard all you can, right? Me, mine, that kind of thing. That can be about the root chakra, which collectively we all have that wound. It's a collective wound. It's a collective trauma where during periods of major crises, catastrophes, wars on this planet, we have completely you know, got into this separation crisis, this separation attack with each other, right? That really led even to more sort of crises, led to even more imbalances. So when we're wanting to manifest and we're, you know, we have the vision, right? But there's also a sense of the receptivity and the letting it come into you, like let it come down, let it descend, right? And when we work with the Apana energy, that's allowing it to descend, meaning you have this huge arc line, right? But you can't have a little tiny body, right? If you have this huge arc line, you need to have hips that are just as equally as expansive as your arc line, right? So, you know, when we look at the Tibetan monks, that's a different type of, you know, manifestation, right? You manifesting of peace, you know, philosophy, virtue, character development. I mean, there's different types of sort of practices of it. But in the warrior practice, it's also about working with the hips, right? So you'll see that that meditation is brought into a physical movement, right? That meditation, that arc line is brought into the expansion of the hips through the different poses that these sort of warriors will sort of hold for periods of time, right? And that's the warrior practice is about manifesting. So usually these warriors are a part of society. They're like householders. They're not just in the mountains, right? And, you know, living in a cave. They're actually they're warrior. They're in society. They're trying to make change. They're trying to build something. So that's a different type of that root chakra. A strong sort of root chakra gives you also this strong sort of hip energy, right? This movement. People have a sort of solid root chakra. They have this sort of movement, right? They know how to move their body. They know how to move their body, right? They know how to move their hips, right? And those people, let's say, who don't have that kind of incarnations of that warrior type of practice, they can have really big hearts. They know how to love very deeply, right? But at the end of the day, it really does go back to that root chakra, right? Big heart, big mind, it was sort of illuminating solar plexus, right? But it's that root chakra that, like the tree system, if you don't have these roots, this tree cannot, it cannot hold itself, right? The elements come in, the winds, the rain, the cold, the storm, and it just will topple over, right? So we work a lot with that sort of root system within ourselves so that we can manifest for, this is sort of a practice of being a part of the world and making things happen. And that's a lot of, meditators at this time are just householders. A lot of them are just average people, right? They're not in some sort of mystic school in some sort of, foreign place, right? Or, in like the Himalayan mountains. A lot of people are just doing it in cities, right? Or in the suburbs, or right, and all over, right? Because they're they want to manifest. I mean, they want to manifest structure, right? Structure in their job or career, or structure in a new form, a new educational model, or different models of thought, or different models of like corporate world, economic world, religious world. And that does require that kind of, how to drop in, how to lock into the earth. Because, the warrior understands that, you need those boundaries, you need that discernment, you need that instinct of like a wolf, so that you can stand up for yourself, right? So that you can hold your ground, right? Because whenever you're making change in any form, whatever it is, there's resistance to it, right? Whatever, change could be internal, it could be something external, there's going to be resistance. And that's why warrior practices, these particular, like, Kundalini yoga, is because they need to hold their ground, because when that resistance comes, they're going to be challenged. And that's the beauty about the warrior practices. It's like they are preparing themselves to face challenge, and sometimes it's great challenge, sometimes it seems insurmountable type of challenge that they have to face, but they practice that root chakra. We talk about that root lock, right? You squeeze in that mula bandha, that kind of root lock. It's really about holding yourself together, right? And not in the way that we are taught in this sort of old sort of school tradition way of just keep it going and don't be emotional and just put on a happy face, right? This is different. This is actually in a physiological shift that you're creating of I am, I belong, I got this. That's very different than you want to cry and you're just holding it in and like, getting very tense. That's very different than holding it, letting it flow in you in a very constructive way, rather than trying to hold it back and then feeling all this anxiety and restlessness, right? And that's kind of the paradigm that we function when it comes to relating to our emotions. And they teach the boys, be a man or something like that, right? But that doesn't teach them how to lock in, how to constructively stand up for themselves, right? How to be a kind of warrior, right? So we're gonna work on that kind of that root lock, that root energy, how to lock into the earth, so that we can have a bigger arc line. Because the arc, we talk about, we meditate 8 hours a day, just sitting here, not moving your body, which is wonderful. There's that kind of thing, but then there's also the hips. The hips gives you more movement. When you have more movement, your sort of physiology, you get greater pathways of creative expression in the mind when you have that sort of movement of the body, right? The movement of the chi, right? Which you can move the chi through meditation. You can ecstatically move the chi through meditation, like white tantric yoga. You can, right? But then when it comes to actually getting something, like planning something and actually seeing something come, right? Seeing, letting whatever that manifestation actually happen, that's usually about, let me get into the hips, let me get into the body, right? Let me get into the sexual, sensual energy, right? Because, we talk about this sexual magic, or the sensual magic is actually a thing, right? It's actually, okay, I'm ready to give birth, right? I'm ready to put this thing into the earth, like plug it in and actually install it into the earth, or structure it, or model it, and actually have an experience. So the root chakra is a lot about, I want to have an experience, but I have to have the will to have the experience of myself, and the I am, and the I belong. Like you need, you want to experience, but you have to have the will. So that's a lot about, we work with like the self-control and the discernment and the potency. We work with the creativity. That's all about that root energy. So when people don't have that root energy and they're really ungrounded, feeling really uprooted, they can feel almost like cultural shock wherever they go. Like they just don't really feel comfortable with having new experiences, or they don't feel comfortable with different perspectives, different cultures. They don't feel comfortable with diversity, right? Because they don't feel comfortable in their own bodies, right? So they don't know how to connect with different experiences, because they themselves don't know how to get involved, right? Without the fear of it. So the warriors is really about the conquering of the fear. It's about like becoming fearless, right? In a very practical way, right? Where you're gonna have doubt, you're gonna have the ding ding ding, danger, that type of thing, or these sort of phobias or fears or traumas of childhood anger, all of that kind of fire. You're gonna have that, but it's more of having the experience of it that's going to lead towards your liberation, rather than having the experience of it, getting locked into it, and not knowing how to move it, not knowing how to move yourself, right? Not knowing how to reposition yourself. And that's the thing about all the soldiers. They know how to reposition themselves, like in a sentence, or in a little cue, right? Because, right, that's the thing of knowing how to reposition yourself, knowing how to rearrange yourself, right? So you can become a problem solver. And I think that's really what the warrior practice is about, becoming a problem solver. Because we can meditate it, because warriors also, you meditate it, you have this big giant arc line and this big aura, you meditate upon it, these huge ideas, but it comes through, it kind of like, you see it like a funnel, like this mass funnel of the cosmos. It kind of comes in, it consolidates, it organizes, it comes down, it descends, and then it kind of holds itself in the base. It kind of latches onto the base chakra, and then it begins to sort of structure you, and then the structure of you, right, what is within without, right, the structure of you begins to create a routine, a lifestyle that will in time give you the positive response that you need in the area of whatever you're trying to build, right? So that's kind of how I see how it works. So we're just gonna dive right into this practice. I just wanted to go a little bit deep into that, because there are many people who feel very, they feel very anxious about relationships, and we all get that sort of overthinking, that kind of anxiety, even that frustration, that anger. But really, when we get grounded, connecting to that earth element, getting into the hips, getting into that sort of body, automatically you'll see people just shift. You'll see their whole physiology shift, and you'll see them starting to become more practical, right? They'll start to become more trusting of their visions, rather than in this delusionment of they have a vision, they have an intention, and they just don't know how to organize it, they don't know how to deliver it, they don't know how to arrange themselves around it. So when you see people working with that sort of area, you'll see them feel a lot more trusting. You'll feel them they'll be more practical, they'll be more productive. You'll see them start to make a routine that that makes them feel more successful, right? So, that root chakra, when you're maintaining it or cleaning it up, you're really looking at your routine. You're looking at your routine and you're really asking yourself, is this making me feel creatively, does this make me feel like a creative, a creative builder, right? So a lot of people, when they're working with that root chakra, they're working with like ceramics, pottery. You'll see a lot of people, this grounded energy, they work with wood making, maybe baskets, clothing making, gardening, farming, sports, recreational activities. You'll see them like as dancers. You'll see them really locked into something and they become really talented at it. So you'll see the root chakra, you'll see these people have a craftsmanship, right? When you start to get into craftsmanship, that's when you know your root chakra is pretty solid and pretty in the ground, right? Your craftsmanship, you know how you make things with your hands, right? You know how to complete things. When you get the idea, you know how to lock it in, right? Rather people get the idea and it's like a loaf and like that kind of thing. So when you get the idea, you know how to lock it in, you know how to concentrate. Like you get the idea of like some sort of ceramics, right? And you know how to create a routine. You know how to prioritize a routine, strategize, organize for you to actually complete that in a practical sort of time, right? That's the root chakra. And I'm telling you, people who have lifetimes of that warrior practice, when they get the idea, they get it, it comes in, and it comes in like it's like a book or a ceramics or a project or a song or a piano piece or whatever it is. They know how to get it down. They know how to get it down. Even it's a dance routine, right? They get the idea, they take the class, they know how to get it down. They know how to get it down, right? And that's craftsmanship. So when you are practicing in like ceramics or pottery or farming or gardening or even like horseback riding, you're really working on craftsmanship and you're really working on the kind of quality of concentration and focus, determination, prioritizing, organizing, and your routine, right? So we talk a lot about like the Taurus has to do with that kind of root chakra, right? Because the Taurus has to do with taking care of yourself, right? It's almost like Taurus has the kind of mentality is like, life is not going to take care of you. Life is not going to baby you. Life is not going to hold your hand, right? That Taurus, and that's kind of like the root chakra. Like if you want to learn, you actually have to participate and you actually have to create a good routine, right? Because people who have a good routine tend to, they get things done, they get things moving. So that root chakra is really about you learning how to have this craftsmanship about you, you knowing how to be a part of the world, knowing how to experience the art of your physical body and your capability of doing things constructively and creatively. So that's what we're working on.